excited that he decided to spend the day where he was left, or I think this is where they saw him, and if not, if he's moved, then we are very happy to see this beautiful spot amongst the yellow grass. Hello, boy. I'm so excited to see Thamba. I think I nearly started crying out of excitement. Oh, yes. Is there something there that's bothering you? Now you see it's out in the open and out in the sun. I think the temperature today is 24 and 74. I think that's what it was. Oh, sorry, 77 and 25. Well, I was very close. You guys get the idea. Now, where he is sitting, there's a bit of a breeze, and if you pay attention to the grass blades, you can see that they're all moving around. So he's actually choosing a very nice spot, because yes, the sun will warm him up, but the very nice cold breeze that's coming along, it's not going to make him feel that he's too hot. And it seems like maybe he's up to a lot this afternoon, because he is out, completely out. Look at that. Almost like a little angel. Until the flies come around, and then the real Thamba comes out. The fly slayer. He is very funny looking like that, and I wonder if it's not even the grass that's bothering him. Justin, you're saying hello, handsome Thamba. Yes, I think that is a good adjective for him, handsome Thamba. And well, this is only the second time that I've seen it, but every time that I've seen his photographs, or now that we're seeing him live, it's just so funny how spotty he is compared to some of the other cats around. I don't know, for some reason it almost feels like he's got more spots than some of the other leopards. I don't know why this is. Maybe he still has got a lot to grow. I mean, we keep seeing and commenting about his prints on the sand and how big his feet are. So maybe he's just going to stretch them all out as he carries on growing, and he'll grow into becoming a much, much bigger male. He is just about a year old, so he's still got a lot to grow. But for now, I think somebody's been doing well. I wonder if he's actually been spending the last few days around this drainage line. So we're not too far from the camp itself, and we are pretty much just behind the dam wall of Gauri Dam, or where the dam cam is. And it is a very good area for leopards to be in. It's a perfect area for Tandy to leave him when she goes off hunting. Lots of little secret hideouts, lots of places where he can go if he feels threatened or there's anything that comes after him. And of course, the dam is right here. So if he gets thirsty, all he has to do is just walk to the dam and have a drink. Which is quite wonderful, isn't it? So it makes me wonder if he's actually been spending a lot more time around here than what we actually initially thought, and he's never left. He just hasn't bothered to cross the road, and then if they don't cross roads and step on the roads, it becomes slightly more difficult for us to try and track them. Because, well, as you guys have seen, it is pretty impossible to see him when he was there. And we were just driving, and we thought we actually had to carry on driving further in, as per Tristan's instruction. And then, luckily, the flies were annoying him. So as he started moving his head like this, and we saw the white of the throat going up. So I'm very excited to see him. Like I said, this is only the second time that I've ever seen Thamba, and I'm sure that as the temperature starts moving down, or maybe the little flies annoy him a little bit more, he'll potentially start moving around. And he's still a youngster, so I think he's still curious about everything that's around. Maybe he's got a bit more energy and a bit less lethargic than what bigger leopards will do, and he's still very much keen to play. So I'm hoping that he's gonna start moving around a little bit later, once he manages, of course, to kill all those annoying flies that are around him that are not letting him sleep. I wonder actually if he has been playing all around this morning and just jumping from termite mound to termite mound, going underneath the bushes, or if he's just being a good boy around here waiting for Tandy. Now that would also be a treat if she decides. A little bit, slightly more awake than what it was before, but I still think he is far too asleep. Right, it seems like Herbie has come to join the sighting, guys, so I'm just going to move slightly forward so we can make a little bit space for them, as it's a bit of a tight spot around here. So, let me just try and go slightly forward. I think this would be good for everyone involved. Hello, Herbie. Hello, Do you have more space? You can come a bit forward if it's better for you. All right, so let's go back over to that beautiful leopard around there. Sorry guys, I know it's not the best visual, but we have to move a little bit because we also want to be respectful to other people that are working here and would like to come and have a look at little Thamba. And it's a bit of a tricky spot because it's quite thick all around us, so he has chosen the spot very well. And of course now there's the camouflage. Oh my goodness, you can barely see him through all of that grass. And now it seems like the shade of the trees actually started to reach him. Monique London, you say you have a strong urge to tickle his chin. Yeah, I'm sure it would be quite nice if you would be able to get him purring on your lap. However, this little cat is not as friendly. I reckon we would all end up with lots of holes if you ever even try to approach him. And what was that? Yes, were you saying that you're a tough boy and no tickles for you, huh? Yeah, they are very, very beautiful when they're this small, and I think they awake this instinct in all of us because they remind us so much of our domestic cats. I mean, if you look at it, they sleep like a domestic cat, they'll yawn like a domestic cat. However, they are that gazillion times stronger and wilder than our cats. So it's good to remember that it's very hard, even considering having any of these animals in captivity, which is something that obviously no wild animal should ever go through. So this is exactly where they belong. I mean, look at him. Doesn't he seem at peace and very happy to be out here amongst all that grass? I think if he could make a wish, perhaps it would be to have less flies around him. Now, he'll keep on popping his head back up every now and again, but I don't think it's any other reason than being mildly alert of what's around him. Tandy is nowhere around in this area, so I wonder if perhaps she's going to come later on during the night. Now, if she were to come back, she could either arrive, if this is the spot where she left her, and come check here, but if she doesn't find him where she last left him, likely she's going to start calling and sawing and just making that contact call. If he doesn't respond, then that's when she goes into sawing and just calling him, just so that he knows that, okay, mom's calling, I have to go straight back to her. And normally they are quite obedient, but as they start getting older, I've seen leopard cubs just take their time, because we've been in positions where you can see the mother calling, but she doesn't know where the cub is, and the cub just take their time in getting to mom. Sorry, Alice, there was a question by R. Lara Moore about the spots or the rosettes. I couldn't copy all of that question, if you don't mind repeating for me. Oh, you're wondering if he's got more solid spots than instead of rosettes, or if he's got more solid spots rather than rosettes. I don't think that's quite the case. A lot of the times when the leopards are still young and it's like they've got to grow into their spots, into their skin, they might appear spottier. And if you see a tiny little leopard cub, then they just pretty much seem to not have any rosettes. He does seem, however, to have more spots on his head and on his face, like proper spots instead of rosettes, than some of the other leopards that I've seen. Or at least that's, just to me. But I think he's probably got a fair average and nothing to worry about. He doesn't seem to have more of one or less of the other. I think just around the face, that's where maybe he seems to have slightly more spots than some of the other cats. Or, well, some of the other leopard cubs that we've seen. Can we see your spotty face, please? There we go. All those spots there. I don't know, he does look very spotty, don't you guys think so? Mystic Wolf, you're wondering why can't leopards purr? Well, it's mainly because of the different structure that they've got around their vocal cords that connects the vocal cords to their trachea. Now, normally the cat world is divided between the big cats and the small cats, if I can put it that way. Now, the big cats would be cats that cannot purr, and the small ones are the cats that can purr. animals like the lions and the leopards, they have more fatty deposits around their throat that are able to expand a little bit more, and they don't have, there's a bone that connects the vocal cords to the tendon to the top of the mouth, and that is not fully ossified. So because it's not fully ossified, it allows the animal to be able to make a bit more noise and stretch the fat deposits around the vocal cords and the cords a little bit more, and that's why they're able to produce this sound that sounds a lot further away than the purring of a cat that have got instead what's called an ossified hyoid at the bottom of their jaw. Seems like Taylor has managed to find a very interesting print in the sand. So let's go over to her and see what tracking lesson she's got in for us. Well, for now it seems like he's not looking to get up and move around, although he is looking very beautiful. We can just see the spots on his belly going up and down while he breathes. And it's quite funny. I think at one point he was a bit hot because it was moving a lot faster. So as we know, the cats, they don't sweat like what we do, so therefore they need to pant and use their respiration through their mouth to be able to cool down or maintain a certain body temperature, make sure they don't overheat. So every now and again it seems like he goes through a bit of a hot patch and his breathing becomes a bit faster, and then it stabilizes a little bit more. Beautiful. He's sleeping so peacefully this afternoon. Stacy, you're wondering if I would think that his paws are exceptionally big for a male this age. Well, it certainly seems so. I mean, this morning, Tristan, who's been tracking for quite a while, he thought that his tracks were Tingana's tracks, and Tingana is an adult male leopard, and a very big one, quite at that. So that's I think it is. I haven't seen too many of his tracks yet, and I haven't had a proper look at his paws, but it seems like that's a reputation he's earned all around, just because, I mean, like we said, if you are able to confuse the tracks of a pretty much a 1-year-old leopard on the sand with the ones of a maybe 10-11-year-old male, I think it's a good indication that this little guy is going to grow a lot more. He's probably going to have to grow into his paws and into his ears. So I think he was probably above average. Very big paws. Maybe we should have named him after the paws. I don't think anybody expected that to happen. Justin, as you're saying that poor Thamba has had such a rough day waiting for his mother. It certainly seems like he has had a tough day waiting for Thandi. But at this time, or at this point in time, and because he's so old, Thandi might even be gone for a few days at a time if she doesn't manage to successfully kill anything, that she can come and fetch Thamba and then take it back to the kill. So for the next few days, he's about a year old, so I have no doubt that he's already making small kills that'll be able to sustain him. So anything from like a squirrel, mongoose, maybe francolins, I'm sure. Well, we saw him stalking francolins the other day, and even impala. So he already knows, he's got the instinct, and I'm sure he's hunted smaller things when mom's not around. But I would suppose that the fact that he doesn't have a sibling, maybe he's gonna, he might get a bit bored every now and again, and we'll have to wait until mom gets here, and then he'll get quite excited. So perhaps he's he's just waiting for Thandi to get back to have a bit of a playmate for a little while. He does seem to have been exceptionally busy during the morning, because he has not woken up pretty much since the time that we arrived. He's every now and again, the head perks up and then he goes back down to sleep. But seeing there is no time like spending leopard time, we have all the patience in the world for him to wake up and start moving around. So I think it will be quite good to see where he goes, and perhaps maybe later on even Thandi might come around, because it seems like they've enjoyed lately going onto the dam cam and being photographed over there. So I wonder if perhaps we're going to get another photograph of the two of them this evening. Seems like definitely considering it. Tough day for you indeed, waiting for mom. properly asleep. I think now the shade of the tree has caught on to him, so he's not out in the open, and I don't think he's going to be that warm for too long. So I wonder if maybe he's going to start feeling a little bit cold, and that's the reason why he might jump up and start moving around. And then, well, of course, if Thandi were to come around, he would wake up, or if there were any other creature that might spark his interest, anything from a francolin to maybe an impala to an elephant walking around, he would very quickly be very alert. It is quite funny because looking at him now, it barely seems that way, doesn't it? All those sleepy spots. Seems like Taylor has left the green giant who was enjoying an afternoon snack, but let's go over to her and see what else she's on the lookout for today. Well, I think previous experience have shown us that we have to be patient, and nothing like waiting for a leopard to build up some of your virtues, as they say, because they say patience is a virtue. So we're still here waiting for little Thamba to wake up. He has not moved pretty much an inch. He seems to be enjoying this afternoon nap quite a bit, and I do wonder if he's actually maybe been just jumping around and moving up and down the whole day, and that's why he's decided to have such a good rest. He could also slowly start becoming older. He is a year old sometime this month, and it is his birthday month. So as they start becoming older, our leopards will start to play a little bit less, and as they come out of that kitty phase, if I can put it that way, or that cub phase, it's probably more appropriate to say, and they're gonna start maybe napping a little bit more and playing a little bit less. So just as a way of weaning off those characteristics that just make him a real cub, although he's still got quite a while to go, so I'm sure he will still enjoy playing as much as he will napping. Oh, wonderful. Paul, you're wondering if Tingana would attack Thamba if he saw him. Well, I'm not too sure who the father or who is believed to have sired Thamba. So if it is Tingana and he's seen it with Thandi before, then there's a very good chance that there would just be an odd encounter and he would just growl, and Thamba would very likely go into a submissive posture and, just let Thamba know that he is the ruler all around. But if Tingana does recognize it as its own cub, then there's a very good chance that he will not be too aggressive with him. As a matter of fact, some of the guys were letting us know, for example, that about a few weeks ago, Hosanna ran into Tingana. Now, Hosanna, I don't know if you guys remember, we had a sighting with him on Chitwa about 2-3 weeks ago, and it seemed like he had a bit of a scratch on his head, and it was then said to us that it was because Tingana had actually run into him, and there was a bit of an altercation, which wasn't a fully aggressive one, but perhaps because Tingana does recognize him as part of his genetic lineage, then maybe that's why. And I would assume something similar would happen with Tingana. In this area, leopards are somewhat more social than what it is believed that they can be in some other areas. Often we've seen, the males with the females and the cubs, but obviously as everyone starts getting older, or as the cubs start getting older, then that is a bond that is precariously there when they're small, and as they get older, well, then it's pretty much erased. So I think for the time being, if Tingana were to bump into Hosanna, there would still be a bit of an altercation and probably a lot of growling. But he's still not in that age where he would be much of a threat. Now, depending on the conditions and how and where he bumped into it, the aggression levels might be a little bit more or a little bit less. But, for example, if Tingana weren't to recognize him, or if he was not too happy with his presence there, then I reckon he would be quite aggressive towards him. About a week ago, we had Tingana steal a kill from him and Thandi, so I'm pretty sure Tingana knows who Thamba is, at least at some level, but it seems like the altercation didn't go all that well. He stole the kill from the two of them, and then Thandi and Thamba were seen going somewhere else, and Tingana going onto his own area. So I think Thamba still needs to be slightly careful. He doesn't want it to be running into male leopards anytime soon, especially if Thandi's not around. So he's got the youth on his side in the sense that he can still run away very quickly, or he can be quite quick if he has to, and he has to run away from everyone else. So I do hope that if he does bump into Tingana, it's going to be with Tandy present, because I think that might change things a little bit. Or, you know, give him a bit more of odds in his favor. Leslie, you're wondering how well does a leopard's camouflage work? Well, we can try and show you if maybe we zoom out, and then you can let us know if you can see the leopard. So that is just how well. If you didn't know exactly where to look, and imagine you're not looking at a big screen, you're just looking with your own eyes, it's very hard to tell if the leopard is there. And sometimes it's either the movement or the white part of the belly or the chin that gives it away, because it's very, very hard to see them. There we go. And it is funny to think that just a few spots managed to hide him so well in the bushes and in the thickets. It's the same why some of the other animals have stripes. They all pretty much have a function of camouflage, just to be able to blend better into the environment, into the backdrop, but as well to break the body shape. Because once you are able to determine that there's a mass that's moving, then very likely you'll be able to spot the animal. But if you don't know, or if you can't determine the contour or the lines of the body, then it becomes a bit harder to be able to spot it, don't you think? Look at that. I mean, imagine just driving through here very quickly, or being another leopard and walking by. Unless you're paying a lot of attention, very likely you would miss it. That is incredible. Very sleepy Thamba. I just need to answer the radio 1 second. Standing by, Rolf. A-firm. Alright, sorry, there was somebody else that was trying to get directions onto where we are, and I'm sure they'll be joining us lately. Not lately, in the next few minutes. Justin, sorry, you were wondering if leopard paws are similar to human prints, in the sense I would imagine that finger details and fingerprints whereby each one of them is individual, and you can tell the individual apart just by looking at the print. I reckon that to some extent, yes, they will all be different in terms of size, and likely if they have injuries or cracks. For example, the soles of the feet, the footprints of an elephant, they're all individual because of all the cracks and the little ridges that are in there. I do think, however, that it's slightly easier to determine individual leopards, not by looking necessarily at its prints, which might be very similar to the one of other leopards, but rather to look at an animal's coat, because then you will definitely have something entirely different from one individual to the next. And I'm sure you've heard us commenting on just how spotty Thamba seems to look like. If we were to look just as its spots, even if we didn't know who this was, we'd be able to then say that it's a completely different leopard from another one that we could see. I did... Justin, you're wondering what could Thamba be possibly dreaming about? I don't know. I think maybe he could be dreaming about dinner. I think Thamba looks like the type of cub that would enjoy a very good meal. Oh, somebody's being shy. I think maybe dinner, maybe finding a new play toy, maybe going hunting. Maybe he wants to be a tough big leopard when he grows old. It would be quite interesting. My goodness, big, nice stretch. Seems like Thamba's not going to be going anytime soon, but let's go over to Taylor, who's got a bird that likes to fly away all the time. We are certainly going to stick around to see if perhaps the persistent pays off. But I was very happy to see, or to hear, rather, that elephant was around earlier on. It seems like the Ellies have somewhat maybe been waiting for Taylor to come back. I wonder. Hopefully Thamba will stick around for the next few days for Taylor to also come and have a look, because if there's something we both have tried very hard with Thamba is to be persistent and just try and have a look at him. I'm hoping that at one point he's gonna sit down and then look at us, because I would love to have a clear view of his face, because the only other time that I've seen him, he was also in between branches and thickets, so it wasn't the clearest view. And I think maybe I'm just being a bit spoiled now, because I know there's a possibility of him looking quite regal on top of the termite mound. I'm wishing it. I'm sure everybody would love to see Thamba, and I don't know what it is. He seems to enjoy termite mounds quite a bit. I think he jumps on top of the termite mounds more than some of the other cubs that I've seen. Likely to get away from the grass, but more likely than not it's because he's still a bit small, so I'm sure he prefers the vantage point to be able to look around him and see what's been happening. That camouflage, it is something unbelievable, isn't it? Andra, you're wondering at what age will Thandi leave Thamba for good? Well, normally between a year and a half, 2 years, that's when female leopards are going to start pushing their previous litter away and pretty much forcing them into independence. So Thamba's very likely still got a few months. It is... Apparently there have been rumors, and now I don't know how much truth there is in this, but that Thandi has been seen walking around with Tingana. Now, I'm not too sure if that's an actual fact, or if there's just assumptions that somebody's made by looking at tracks, which we know that sometimes doesn't always work. But if, for example, if Thandi were to start mating with Tingana now, very likely in the next 4 months or so, she would have a new litter, so she would start pushing Thamba away pretty much anytime in the next 3 to 4 months. If she hasn't come into estrus yet, then that will give Thamba, I would say, maybe 6 to 8 months at least before he gets pushed out. It depends on every single situation and of every single female leopard, but I think at least for the next 4 months, 5 months, I would push it, 6 even. Very likely Thamba will be somewhere around Thandi, and she'll be somewhere around. He's still a bit too young to be able to start bringing down bigger prey like impala, like the way that Hosanna is doing now, or that we've seen him do. But I have no doubt, like I was saying earlier, that he's able to bring down smaller things. So I don't think he's quite ready to be independent yet, and then I think that also plays a very important role before a female leopard goes back into heat, just, you know, that making sure that their offspring are on that stage where they can successfully be pushed into adulthood and become independent and succeed at being a solitary creature and providing for themselves. He is quite a stunning creature, isn't he? Lara Moore, you're wondering, where is Thandi? I don't really know. I don't think we've seen her for the last little bit, and funny enough, the last time that we saw her was on one of the screenshots of the dam cam where she seemed to have been having a drink with Thamba. So possibilities are that she is indeed somewhere with Tingana, which I don't think it's quite the case. Or more likely than not, she is out hunting, waiting to, well, hopefully she'll be successful, and once she is, and she'll come back and potentially take Thamba back to that kill. She was on a kill, well, that we know of, about 5 days ago or so with Thamba, a kill that unfortunately we didn't manage to find until Tingana came and stole it from them. So I wouldn't be surprised if after that they made another kill, or she was successful at bringing something down, or maybe something smaller, maybe like a diker or something like that, and then they've moved into this area because they were last seen coming into the Molowati. So I wonder if perhaps they haven't been here all along, moving up and down. And this morning she was not seen, and she hasn't been seen the last few days. So my best guess is that she's out hunting. Very likely, though, and just remember, leopards are opportunistic animals, so it could very well be that she, in her hunting process, she is doing exactly the same as Thamba. She is resting somewhere in the vicinity, somewhere in the area, and once the conditions become a bit more favorable for her to start moving around and go hunting, then that's when she's going to start doing it. And she'll only come back to fetch Thamba once she manages to bring down a kill, or if too many days have passed and she hasn't checked up on her cub. What a range of possibilities we have here. Oh, look at that pretty face. He is so fast asleep. can't even see the face. It is incredible what all those little spots do. Alexis, you're 6 years old and you're wondering if a snake would ever kill a leopard. Yes, it has happened before, where we think that leopards that we are very much used to seeing have been bitten by snakes and then have died. Sometimes, depending on the snake, and if it bites them really, really hard, and it depends what type of snake it is, sometimes they can recover, sometimes they don't. But yeah, it does happen that snakes every now and again kill leopards that we have in this area, because just like we do, sometimes when the leopards go walking around in the grass, they will bump into a snake without even noticing, and they might be a bit too close to them. It seems like the little prince is not ready to wake up yet, so why don't we go over to Taylor, who's managed to fight off all the gremlins of the Malawati. Well, he was certainly playing with her feelings a few moments ago, because he got his head up and then he started yawning and there was a bit of a leg stretch, and now, as you can see, that's all pretty much finished and he's gone back down. So we are hoping that he's going to do that, but stay awake for a while longer in the next few minutes or so. But the fact that he has at least got his head up once and started yawning might be, you know, the light at the end of the tunnel, that he will start perhaps becoming a bit more active. Ah, there's a leg moving. Stumpy, you're wondering if leopards have long tongues. Well, if you've ever seen the tongue of a domestic cat or a dog, I would say it's pretty much the same ratio. So it's proportional to the length of their jaw, but it's not particularly long. Not, for example, when compared to the tongue of something like an aardvark or an anteater or a pangolin. What they do have is a very rough tongue, so the tongue is almost like it's got a little papillae in there that are very rough, and they're positioned in a way that it almost acts like a comb. So when they start grooming themselves, they're able to actually get the little particles of dirt, of old pieces of meat or blood through the different papillae in their tongue, and that way they'll be able to clean themselves. So very rough tongue. If you've ever touched the one of a domestic cat, that's what the tongue of a leopard pretty much feels like. So very similar to that. And I think he did groom himself for half a second when he got his head up. I think maybe he had a bit of an itch close to his stomach, but it seems like he's gone back down and nothing to disturb him all throughout. It is funny how he's just pretty much gone down. And when we got here, I wonder if maybe we just got him at the end of his play session and when he had been moving around, because his head was still up when we first arrived here, and then it was pretty much game over. I'm onto the side, completely asleep. Bye-bye. But if there's anything that I've learned about leopards, it's that you've got to be very patient with them, and sometimes patience pays off. And I think for me it would just be amazing to see him, or to see his beautiful face above all the grass. And I'm sure everyone's also waiting for him to decide to grace us with a bit of a better look. And he seems to be quite the poser. Every time that I've seen those screenshots of him, he always seems like, you know, he loves posing on top of the termite mound with the sun in his face and the wind blowing behind him, and always a very beautiful setting. So Thamba, in you we trust that you're gonna wake up at some point and then you're gonna show everyone your beautiful face. Not bad. Well, his stomach, if we look at it from here, it doesn't seem that empty. So I'm sure he's had something to eat in the last half a day or so. Look at that belly. Lisa, you were wondering if he had a kill somewhere close. Well, I think whatever it is that he had, it's finished. So he doesn't seem to have been starving, at least from this angle. If he gets up, maybe we'll have a bit of a different opinion, but he seems at least that he's had a recent meal. So I don't think he's got a kill around here. We saw him this morning and he didn't go back to any particular kill, and this afternoon he hasn't moved from here, and Tandi's not around here. So I think And that's why when Taylor said that she had the tracks in the Molowati, there's a very good chance that Thandi is just busy hunting somewhere out there, and once she manages to bring something down, then she'll come and fetch it and then take him back to the kill. He's gotten to the point where he's a bit too big, and depending on what Thandi manages to bring down, I think it'll be easier for her to then come and get it than actually bring the kill over right here, which she wouldn't do even if they were tiny with a big male impala. Ah, wonderful. I think I'm quite happy to see him this full, and he doesn't seem to be too bad in a condition, and I'm sure Thandi, either today or tomorrow, she'll pop by and she'll come around. But I wonder if maybe he's going to go later on to the dam and have a bit of a drink. That would be pretty nice with the beautiful sun. But while we carry on waiting patiently for Thamba to just pretty much go like this and say hello to everyone, let's go to Taylor and see how her search for all of the wonderful creatures of Djuma is going. Communications issue, but I have no doubt that Taylor will be able to sort it out. Thamba has not moved up, not even once in the time that we've been here. So I wonder if maybe he'll take us after Tingana. Tingana can also be very patient before decided to move around. But what I do think happened, just after pretty much spending all of my afternoon in the company of this beautiful boy, it's been that we got him just as his play bout finished and just as he was starting to fall asleep. So for the last, let's see, around about almost 2 hours, I would say, he's just been having a very nice nap. Amazing how time flies by. Every now and again there'll be a stretch of a leg or, yes, we saw your face once more. So it is starting to get very cold. I have already started to put on my layers, so I'm hoping that the fact that I'm feeling a lot colder, that Thamba will start waking up from this beautiful slumber and maybe just move a little bit more. I think, are you stretching now? Oh, that's a nice stretch. He's been playing with my feelings quite a bit. I keep thinking that he's going to wake up every time he stretches like that, and then it seems that he decides not to. I think now maybe he's gotten to the point where the grass is annoying him. Maybe the little inflorescence or the dead seeds on the top of the dead flowers of the grass are annoying him. Yes. Oh, look at that big stretch. Oh my. Isn't he precious? It looks like a nice full belly, I must say, or well, maybe not the fullest it can be, but it does seem that he's had a nice big meal. Well, Thamba, you're being quite lazy this afternoon, aren't you? But how funny is that? Isn't that typical cat-like? And I think maybe the grass is annoying him, and that's why he's been stretching out like that and trying to find a better position, something that's a bit more comfortable for him. It is funny. I haven't seen too many leopards sleep the way Thamba is doing now. Normally they don't sleep so placidly. This almost looks a little bit more like a lion pose. Rarely have I seen leopards sleeping with their belly up like that. Lions more often, but leopards, I don't know, not too many times. So I think maybe Thamba's feeling quite camouflaged amongst all the grass, and he feels like he can do that. Deborah, you say that belly needs tickling. It almost does, doesn't it? But I'm sure if we were to even sort of try and attempt to get close to him on foot, he would not be that sleepy, and likely he would run away. But in a parallel universe, I reckon it would be quite nice. He's almost sleeping like an older person. Megan, you're wondering how long can leopards sleep for? Well, they can sleep for pretty much most of the day. There's a lot of debate going on about how to define leopards, whereas if they sleep the whole day or if they sleep for a few hours and they woke up and they start being a bit more active. But in general terms, they sleep about 15 to maybe 18 hours in a day, depending on if they're looking for food or if they've got youngsters or if they're patrolling their territory and so on. So they won't sleep necessarily throughout the day like the lions do, when, for example, they will start sleeping around about 8 o'clock in the morning and only wake up 8 o'clock at night. leopards are active a bit more in patches, and what I mean by that is, yes, it is believed that they are crepuscular creatures, that they move when the light conditions are lower, but I have seen them move in the middle of the day very often, and so have a lot of the other rangers around here. So it's, in general, due to experience, it's believed that they will be active for a few hours, and then they will sleep and have a nice nap for a few more hours, and then again for another few more hours. But they do sleep a lot as well, compared to some of the other creatures. Those legs are so funny. They're giving you away, boy. It's probably why you shouldn't be sleeping like that. At one point to me, it just looked like wings. Leopard wings, almost. So I don't think he could be happier right now. I think he has found the best possible way for him to sleep, with belly up, legs spread, and dominating the termite mound. He is quite funny, I'll give him that. My. So, you had us all fooled there, Thamba. We all thought that you were going to get up and maybe start stretching a little bit more. But it's almost like when we start waking up, and I don't know if it happens to you guys, sometimes when you wake up and then you're just like, I'm almost there. So your brain is aware of everything that's around you and what's going on, but then your body just rolls onto the other side of the bed and it's just like, oh, this is too nice. I just 5 more minutes. So I think that's what he's experiencing now, and what he feels like at the moment. But make no mistake, he won't stay here the whole night. He's likely either going to move somewhere around into this area, or perhaps if Tandy comes back, then he might move a lot. I think it would be quite something if we were to start looking for him tomorrow morning and find him pretty much all the way over here. Especially sleeping in that unique fashion. Cat lover drawings, you're wondering if we see cheetah or leopards more often. Well, in this particular area we see a lot more leopards than cheetahs. Cheetahs are quite rare in general around this general vicinity, and part of the reason is because we have a high density of lion and leopard and hyenas. So cheetahs being out of in that area the less ferocious of the predators, or the weakest one, if I can even call them weak. They don't do too well in this often because of inter-predator competition, but as well it's quite thick around this area, and it's believed that cheetahs do a bit better in areas that are a bit more open. We used to see 2 male cheetahs, 2 cheetah brothers along this area, and they were spotted not too long ago. I think maybe yesterday or the day before, they were actually seen hunting in one of the big open areas in Buffelshoek, which is a reserve that's just north of us. So they are around and we see them every so often, but I don't think I've heard of one being spotted at Djuma for a while. Have you seen cheetahs at Djuma recently? So no cheetahs on this game reserve. It's a bit of a blessing and a curse, because we have so many leopards that we can spend time with, and lions as well. Then that's probably one of the reasons why we don't get some cheetahs around here. They can be very easily pushed off their sightings. Sorry, I'm just listening to Alice, but nothing to be too worried about for now. I think Thamba is just almost, he seemed to have stretched again. Maybe he's sleeping with a bit more decorum. But for now, he seems to be enjoying life all throughout. Theon, you're saying that it seems like Thamba hit the snooze button many times. I think so too. I think he's sort of wanted to wake up a few times now, but every time there is a bit of encouragement to wake up, it's very soon snoozed away, and he's just like, no, I'm not ready just yet. So I wonder what he's going to be doing. I don't think I've ever seen a leopard sleep in this fashion before. This is quite unique to you, Thamba, now that I think about it. And I do think that he is very fast asleep. I mean, he seems to be so comfortable in that general position. And I had hope earlier that as the shade of the tree was going to start making him feel a little bit cooler, that he was going to start moving around, but not quite. The next track, you're saying he's taking relaxing to the next level. I think so. One thing we should all learn from the leopards on how we can handle the weekend and what we should be doing for the rest of this Saturday and probably for the Sunday, although maybe he's a day too early. Seems like Taylor has managed to find some of the mystery creatures that we've been looking for in the last few days, so she's racing off in that... He has woken up. We still don't know if we can actually call it that he's going to become a bit more active, because he woke up, he stretched down a little bit, and then he turned around and went back to lying down. So I think maybe it's still a bit too early to call it. I am hoping that he's going to head with his beautiful head up. He has been yawning and he started grooming himself, so there's a very good possibility that he's going to start becoming a bit more active. And there's those beautiful eyes of yours. What are you looking at? Lisa, you're saying that he must be in a growing period. I think so. I think maybe he's in a bit of a growth spurt at the moment. But also in a very lazy time of his life. There's something there that he was looking at, and oh, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to offend you. That was a proper look, as in like, Ali, what did you just say? I am terribly sorry. I'm sure you earned your right to sleep. Oh, you are a stunning creature, aren't you? Ah, you're going back to sleep. No, I didn't mean it. Wake up. Isn't that the sweetest view, though? Isn't that just incredibly heartwarming? I think you had us all fooled, and this is why I was a bit worried when he laid down again and he turned around that maybe he was just busy finding a new position or how to cuddle himself off and keep slightly warmer. Although I think maybe now the seed has been planted in his brain, maybe we'll have a bit of a better chance of him getting up and moving around while Taylor manages to reposition and have another look at those lions. And how amazing of a comeback is that for Taylor after being on leave? I don't think you could wish for pretty much anything that's better than that. And for us, we have had a very happy catcher day, I think. We've had this beautiful boy that has been able to feature, and then of course lions and more lions, which is always wonderful to see. What's that? James, you say that Catcher Day has been a roaring success. I fully agree with you. I think we've been very, very lucky with all these beautiful creatures. Just every time he gets his head up like that, I'm almost like waiting for him to get up. So that's why I stopped talking. I'm almost waiting for him to spring down the bush and for us to have to start moving around following him. But I don't think we can complain at all about what a wonderful day we've had today. Beautiful, aren't you? Lisa, you were wondering what a spot pattern means. Well, the spot pattern is what we use to identify particular leopards. I think Thamba, it's either 3 on one side or 2 on one side and 4 on the other side. I think it's actually 3, 4. And it's just, you just refer to 2.4. It just refers to the spots that they've got on the sides of their nose. So you'll see every leopard will have a different combination. So, for example, if we were to look at Thamba, we would have 2 on the right side and 4 on the left side. If you were to wake up slightly a little bit more, it's just those spots above the whiskers, we'll be able to have a bit of a better look. But I think for now, you're just going to have to trust us that that is the count. There we go. Gone back to sleep. So it is a quick way of IDing leopards and just finding out who it is that we're looking at. Other researchers also, for example, they use the ones around the side profiles. So they'll use a spot pattern just to make triple sure of what they're looking at. There we go. I think there's just that one blade of grass. But yes, the spot patterns refer to the spot arrangement that a particular leopard or even a lion have above their whiskers that allow us to identify individuals, because every pattern will be different. Still such a young cub. Look, he's still got a very nice rosy nose, and as he gets older, then that nose is going to start becoming darker and darker. But it's quite endearing to see that he's still got a nice rose one. Seems like Taylor has managed to find a better view of the lion, so let's go over to her and see what the Nkuhumas are up to. Like he's going to be up to too much. He was quite interesting in the hornbills flying around them, and when they started making their call, then he started raising his head and moving around. So he seems somewhat alert now, more than what we have seen him this afternoon. And I can't see from here, but perhaps he's looking at the other hornbill that flew away a few moments ago. Oh, I'm going to shut up now because I think we might be able to hear the call of the hornbill. You see, even Thamba's hearing. Now this one that's calling, this is the male. He's got a blue patch on his throat, and that's how I know, because the females, they have a completely red patch. Maybe hang on a second, I want to double check that fact that I've just told you, because I might have gotten the wrong way around. Oh, isn't that amazing? Even Thamba is looking at them. He's surrounded by ground hornbills. Ah, there's another one. There he goes, flying on top of him. So he's been definitely looking at them. So it seems that I got it the wrong way round. So the one that was calling was the female, because the female's the one with the blue patch and the male is the one with the red patch. As soon as I said it, I knew something didn't feel right. So it was the female that was calling in the distance, and we've had 3 fly above us, and I wonder if it's perhaps the same ones that Tristan had this morning, because the jackalberry where he spotted them was not too far from here, so maybe it should be good to go and inspect tomorrow and see what's happening. Luckily, they've gotten Thamba's attention, and his head has been straight up, and look how alert he is. His ears pointed in that particular direction, while all the birds and the hornbills in addition seem to be calling. Wonderful to see you. Funny, just as some of the cats were up and about and moving around, we've got the sleepy ones that have almost woken up. Amazing how they've swapped. And I was quite surprised to hear that the lions were moving. It seems like it's a bit early for them, so I wonder if perhaps they were pushed away from wherever they had been resting by something else. I wonder. Like I said, I can't see from here, but I think it's still the hornbills out in the distance what Thamba is so intently looking at, and I can still hear them faintly calling far, far away from here, so I'm sure that that's what he's got his attention on. Thomas, you say that it looks like Thamba's getting Tingana's eyes. I think he's got very beautiful eyes, this particular leopard. Look at him. I think he's going to be quite a handsome boy once he grows up. Beautiful. Just beautiful. You are very alert now. Finally waking up. I am completely and utterly mesmerized by this leopard. I think he might be one of the prettiest cubs that I have seen so far, and there's something about him, and I think the color of his eyes is very beautiful. And I remember Tiani, which is Salaeshu's daughter, and they think she's also a leopard that lives in this area, and they think that probably Mr. Anderson was the male that is her father, and she had the brightest blue eyes, and now that she's grown older, she also has that very faint color, and I wonder if it's perhaps why I think that this is a stunning leopard, just because of that coloration of light eyes and their spots and everything else. I think it makes them look incredibly beautiful. And he sort of brought her to mind, so I wonder if I could play matchmaker and maybe in a few years' time have cubs from the both of them. I reckon they would have some of the most stunning eyes out here in the bush. But don't worry, I won't play matchmaker with you just yet. First, we have to see how you do the next year or so of your life and if you'll stick around this area. As males tend to disperse quite a bit from where they were born, and sometimes they are known to pretty much go into an entire different area. Sometimes a couple a couple tens of kilometers, sometimes even 100 of kilometers away from where they were originally born into. But I am hoping that Thamba is going to stick around in an area where we can keep tabs on him and just find out how he does. Hopefully you'll stick around. Izzy, you're saying he's quite dark in color compared to the others. I agree with you, and that's probably why he's been puzzling all of us. He does look like he's somewhat spottier on his head, or perhaps it is just that his spot seems to be darker than some of the other leopards. I don't know, it's quite interesting to see how sometimes the combinations of different things work out. There is, for example, a very famous leopard in another national park in Tanzania, in Ruaha National Park. And they've got a leopard there that has got very dark rosettes, but they are so big that they almost look like they belong on a jaguar. So, funny enough, the rangers there have nicknamed him Onça for the Latin name for jaguar, which is Panthera onça. And when I look at Thamba, he reminds me as well of this particular one, just because his spots were so big and dark. And when I was doing my field work about the leopards of Ruaha in Tanzania, big yawn, nice big teeth. This one was very striking. He was probably the easiest one to identify, just because his rosettes didn't seem like they were right. Some grooming going on, and I thought you were going back to sleep. Nice big teeth. You're going to be a big leopard, aren't you? I don't think he's decided if he wants to wake up. It's almost like his body is forcing him to wake up, but his brain is not ready to give up on the sleepy situation. But now that he is grooming himself, I think we have a bit more of a chance for him to stand up and maybe walk around a little bit. They tend to, and lions do it as well. Once they start becoming a bit more active, there's a lot more yawning, and while they yawn, there's a lot more oxygen that's being pumped into their brain. They start becoming less lethargic, they start grooming themselves, and then potentially start moving around. Beautiful boy. Let's see if he does get up to anything else around here. I think this is going to be a slow process for the time being, but while we wait for Thamba to get up, why don't we go back to Taylor and see what the lions have been doing. Well, you can see now that he's swapped positions, but I think he's more concerned now with the flies. He's been on a fight with them for the last few minutes or so, and every now and again you'll see him opening his mouth and trying to catch them. I think he's had enough of them for this afternoon. Of course, now that I've mentioned it, you're going to pretend that you weren't actually eating the flies, are you now? It's fine. We all know the truth, Thamba. Standing by. Negative, Mike. He's still static, same log. You're more than welcome to make your way. East of Giraffe Dip on Central. Alright, sorry guys, I just had to update one of the guys that was trying to find out where beautiful Thamba was, so I couldn't possibly be rude. Alice, I believe you had a question from Daniel? Adele, sorry. Adele, you're wondering if he will still be close to his mother once he's older. Well, he will still recognize her, but leopards, they don't have social bonds like some of the other creatures do, or some of the other cats. So while he might still recognize her, seeing her doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a nice greeting. Often the females will fight with their daughters that they see, mostly because the daughters will somewhat inherit a portion of their mother's territory. And even when a mother and a daughter bump into each other, they fight, and they can be quite aggressive, especially if there are cubs or a kill around. Now with Thamba, for example, what would happen is that he will very likely move off himself entirely of this area where he's been into, unless there is a very opportunistic gap in between all of the male's territories. So I think once that he starts moving around and he becomes older and starts going into adulthood, likely he won't see his mother again unless he meets with her by chance. So I think it's a bit interesting and quite lonely, the life of a leopard, but I've never thought of it that way with males and females and recognizing each other. For sure he'll know who Thandi is, but like I said, I doubt that he will see her again once he becomes an adult and if he has to move off this area, until he settles and becomes a dominant male in a particular area. I think we've got a nice bush there that's acting as a sensor. So while Thamba finishes with his daily grooming routine, let's go to Taylor and the lions in the darkness. Well, he is busy gotten back to grooming himself. I think maybe there's a bit of a tick in a tough spot. So I'm sure he's getting rid of it. But he hasn't moved around too much. I think he's just trying to get rid of as many flies as possible because he's been attacking and trying to bite all of them, which has been quite funny. And then he's tried to lay down again and the flies become a bit more annoying, and then that's when he decided to get up and start grooming himself. He has become a lot more alert than when we first started. That is quite obvious, I would say, just by the fact that we can see his face now and there's a bit of movement. And he spent quite a lovely afternoon just snoozing on top of the termite mound. You have been contorting in a very funny way. I think maybe there's a fly or an insect that I can't really see on the screen anymore, but I think that's why he's moving his head in... thank you for those teeth. That's why he's moving his head in such a funny way, just trying to catch them mid-air. Very thorough grooming session, I must say. Seems like Thandi has taught him well and he's just maintaining his coat in perfect condition. I don't think he wants to look dirty for when Mom comes back, do you, boy? I think also there are a few ticks there that have been annoying him. He starts moving around and almost doing like that biting motion that they do to try and get potentially rid of bigger ticks. Because as you can imagine, moving around in this environment, and no front line here, so lots of ticks and little parasites that get attached onto all of the creatures. And it becomes a bit more obvious, I would say, as they get older and maybe their hair gets a bit shortened, and then you see lots of ticks, especially around the ears and in between the legs, and often the cats, they will get them in between the toes, and it becomes very, very annoying for them. So I think he's fighting a tick off. Take care, you're wondering if the inner hairs of the ear affect the hearing. I would imagine that up to an extent, perhaps they do, but they also have a more important function, that it is to look after the ears, let's say, or the ear canal, and just prevent dirt and little things from coming inside and just making it dirty. So I don't think if they do hinder, I don't think it's much, because it's normally very thin hairs and they don't do... They're never too cluttered together, let's put it that way. So it's not like if they have a big cotton swab in their ear. Oh, did you get that? So up to an extent, yes, I would imagine not having them would allow them to hear a lot better, but they've got to protect all the sensitive areas of their body. The flexibility of these cats never ceases to amaze me. Imagine if you were a human trying to do that and putting your leg behind your ear. I don't reckon that would be too easy. It's a lot of silence around where we are. We can just hear some of the nocturnal birds starting to call. We've got a fiery nightjar in the distance. And then there were some spotted thigneys or water thigneys that were also calling. Every now and again we can also hear a little pearl spotted owlet. I wonder. my goodness, all these insects. Tilly, you're wondering if leopards sleep as much as lions. I would say that they don't sleep as much in one go as lions do, but some of them have been known to sleep almost just as much as lions. So lions are estimated to sleep around 20 hours in a day, and leopards just slightly less than that. I think all these flies are really starting to bother him. I wonder how many he's actually eaten in the time that we've been here. Not enough for a good meal. Andreen, you're wondering how much it affects cubs growing up with or without siblings. Well, that's a very interesting question, and I don't know if there's been any research done about it, so I'm definitely going to go look it up and just see what science says about it all. I would imagine that in terms of developing muscles and skills and problem solving, perhaps having siblings might be, or, you know, just fighting for food might give them a bit more of an edge in terms of survival, because from a very young age they will have to start competing with their very own family to be able to eat as much as they need, and just to show their dominance and just how strong they are, and being able to eat as much as they want. I think, or I suppose, that growing out without sibling might just make them slightly weaker in I would say in the physical sense, just because they don't have the constant battle with another sibling and having to try their muscles and chasing each other up. I would imagine that perhaps weaker is too much of a strong word, but they wouldn't be as agile in maybe in play fighting or in fighting eventually when they go older, just because of lack of practice. Because when they're very small, they only have their mothers who will tolerate them up to an extent, and then it's pretty much, if they're a single cub, it's just themselves to entertain themselves. So if there were another cub around here, maybe they would be playing around or tossing each other and moving. Alright, seems like someone's waiting for the return of his mother. We'll wait patiently, see if perhaps Tandy decides to make an appearance, but let's go over to Taylor, who's got a lot more mothers over there. Well, I think if anyone has taught me anything about patience, it will definitely be leopards. So Thamba every now and again glances in the direction of the dam, so I wonder if perhaps Tandy is somewhere there. If he can hear something we cannot, that might give her away. We have scanned around the area, but no luck. There doesn't seem to be anything around, and we have not heard her make any sort of contact call. So we're just speculating. I think we want her to come more than what she is actually around here. But I think now that we're having a look at him, he does look like a tiny little cub. He still has that look on his face that pretty much gives away just how young he is. And if you're wondering why the screen is in black and white, sorry, I forgot to mention, we have turned the IR on, the infrared, so that we can have more of a view of this little one during the night. You are... Oh, I hear some francolin in the distance. I'm not too sure. I think it would be worth it just to keep an eye on the dam cam this evening. I think Thamba might pop into that area, and you see how alert he is, and he's facing towards the drainage line, so I wonder if perhaps Tandy has not decided to come back and she's somewhere around here. We have tried to, like I said, scan around the area, but I can't hear anything and I couldn't see anything, and it's quite thick all around us. So I suppose we'll have to wait a few minutes and see what happens. See if perhaps she does decide to come around, or if not, if they do make another appearance at the dam cam. I think he's still got it. Now that he's got his head up and we are having a very nice view of him, he does still have that look, that kitten look, or not kitten, that cub look. It looks like he's still a young individual. I can't believe you're so tired. You've had like 3 hours nap. Outrageous. Are you gonna party into the night? Interesting. It's been quite interesting to spend an afternoon with this cub. I would imagine that they would be like humans, that if mom's not around, they would just get up to all sorts of things and maybe be a bit more active and play around. But it seems like he's just been very happy to do nothing. Nancy, you say he still looks like such a baby. I agree with you. I mean, look at that. But a very brave baby that sleeps in termite mounds while mom is away, and there are leopards and lions and buffalo and elephants all around. So I think one of the toughest boys around. Like I say, I'm surprised he was pretty much on the same spot the whole afternoon. I would have assumed that maybe he was a bit more active all throughout the afternoon, but seems like we were wrong, and he surprised us in just being a very nice Saturday afternoon. Perfect Saturday. I mean, I can't believe how lucky we've been and just what amazing views we've been able to have of all these fantastic creatures. I, for one, am very, very happy that we have managed to see him, especially because he's been eluding me for so long. But I think we've broken the chain now, and now Thamba and I can officially be friends because we have spent the whole afternoon with him. I think maybe we'll have a last look of him before we have to say goodbye to all of you. It has been a wonderful day spent with everyone, and I hope everyone's enjoyed it just as much as all of us. And we will see you all tomorrow